go. Here we go. Three, two, and one. Well, Mayor Shane, welcome back. Mayor's
Thanks,
Monday here
Mike.
at WSAU, WSAU.com.
I appreciate it.
Have you quit yet?
No, not for another like 90 some days.
Who's counting?
Right, exactly.
Right?
I don't have an app or anything on my phone.
Yeah. We've only got how many more of these left?
Two,
So
I think. Yeah.
yeah, something like that. I don't know.
Two
I'm
or
not
three.
counting.
Yeah.
I barely got here on time today. He said over Zoom. Famous last words if there ever were any, I would guess. But yeah, I mean, are you more relaxed around the office these days? How are things going now that they know that, hey, we don't really have to do anything that he says because he's going to be gone?
Yeah, it's kind of a unique feeling because I'm truly a lame duck. So I kind of hate to say it, but I feel a little useless because what do I do? I don't start a big project or, just keeping the wheels on the bus and forging ahead and making calls and answering emails. But yeah, there's nothing like I'm working towards or any big issues or anything like that. That's for the mayor candidates to kind of arm wrestle over and figure out where they're going to go with their campaigns and ultimately the new mayor.
Yeah, and that's one thing that we can talk about because obviously you were at one time the clerk in the city in a past life.
Correct.
So elections I know are something that are very near and dear to you, and obviously you want to make sure that everything goes according to as it should in the election. We won't say according to plan. Again, there's no script in the background anywhere that this is going to write itself come February 20th. Because you have a citywide primary, so everybody in Wisconsin Rapids, you have a reason to go to the poll on February 20th for the mayor's primary. So preparations I know are definitely well underway for that coming up here in 40 some days.
Yep, the clerk's hard at work and making sure getting the ballot set up and the machines programmed and getting everything dialed in the election workers. So yeah, that's the only thing on our ballot, I believe, is the mayor's primary,
Yeah,
but it's
and
important.
yeah, absolutely. And
So
in
draw
this
down two
every
candidates.
every again, my theory, I say it until I'm blue in the face in this business. Every election, every time, make your plan, get out there and cast the ballot because again, I've seen too many of these elections that come down to a coin flip, but come down to a drawing of a piece of paper, roll
Mhm.
of the dice. I have not seen rock paper scissors yet, but I can only imagine that that's coming one day. Uh, so four candidates. Give us an idea of who is on that ballot for residents to consider.
So there's a gentleman named Matt Zacher. He's on city council. He's the chairman of the finance committee. He's been on there for a couple of years. He's a veteran and a local business owner. There's another gentleman by the name of Tom Muse who is a local resident. I don't know a lot about him. Preston Scythe, I've known him for quite a while. He's a great guy, but I don't know exactly what he's done in preparation to get himself ready for this position. Same with the other candidate, Nick Palmquist, who I don't know either. So
Yep,
those are the four.
but those are the four candidates. Again,
Mhm.
now that they're on the ballot, it's on them to get out there and get their message out one way or another.
That's
But
correct.
I know you were just telling me before we started, you are actually endorsing one of the candidates for mayor. So you want to go ahead and tell
Yeah,
us why you're coming out and endorsing at this time.
yeah. I just think that Matt Zacher's probably the best in the best position and position himself to take over this role. He's been on city council. He has been the chairman of the finance committee, so he understands budget. He's a business owner with employees. So I just think he's in the best position to take over leadership with probably the least amount of a learning curve out of the three. And he's very down to earth and he's very approachable. And yeah, I'm sure he'll be accessible and he'll be visible. Hopefully, kind of the way I was also. So that's why I'm supporting him. And I know two other past mayors that are going to publicly support him also. So we just feel that he's in the best position to take over leadership.
And I know it's because we've been talking about this for a couple of months now. I know you did publicly come out in this platform and in other platforms and said anybody who wants to consider running, go ahead, get a hold of me. We'll sit down, have a beverage of your choice, and talk about it. And so, have any of the other three candidates that are putting their name in there, have they reached out to you? And if so, what have those conversations been like?
So I spoke to one person, well, Nick Palmquist, probably before deer season. We had a conversation. It just you just it was just kind of an initial discussion, but we haven't talked about anything since then or anything in depth. Preston's group has reached out to me and they want to sit down at some point, but I have not sat down with them yet either.
And again, no matter who it is that ends up winning, though, I mean, you are endorsing somebody. So again, don't make a mistake about that. But no matter who wins, you will make yourself accessible to them going forward for the rest of the year, and I guess however long it takes for them to get their feet under them.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's important to understand maybe why I made some decisions that I did internally, and if they have an interest to know why, I think it's important that I share that with them. So they might not have to deal with some of the struggles that I've dealt with, and maybe these reasons will help kind of explain why I did the way I did
Mhm.
internally, because it really is a $40 million operation with over 200 employees. So there's a lot of operational things that go on day to day that a mayor in Wisconsin Rapids is responsible for, unlike maybe some other communities that have a mayor, city administrator type role, where there's that kind of buffer between that operational end of it. And so, but mayors in Wisconsin Rapids are both. So yeah, definitely going to be available to questions.
Absolutely. And the one thing that I am imagine you mentioned a $40 million operation. What not a lot of people realize is there's different ways of operate or of managing that based on the city charter. And from what I understand, Wisconsin Rapids, you are what's called a strong mayor form of government, which means you're actually going to write that initial budget to for consideration to the alders of the city council, who then actually have the say as to whether the
Right.
document you have written is going to stand up or if it's going to be torn up and reworked.
That's correct. We meet with department heads and the finance director and I do, and he ultimately compiles everything into a nice format. But it's I can take away, I can add, and then ultimately the council is responsible for the adoption of the budget. And yeah, they can throw it away and start over if they want, or they can just use it as a starting point to make changes. And rarely do they ever make changes. And so it's always, you always hear the rhetoric about budgets and spending. But when it comes down to a lot of times, we have a lot of budget meetings and I can't remember the last time anything was really changed significantly or even a little bit. And so usually it's kind of what's submitted is pretty close to what's going to be done because all the work has been put into it already.
Especially if you've got faith in those department heads, which I
Mhm.
know, and this is something else that you have said that the new mayor will have access to, which is those department heads, those
Mhm.
people that have been doing this for a living, some of them over a couple of mayors, maybe dating back to Zach Ruink and then before. Uh,
Yep.
they have access to those resources as well, and if you've got trust in them, then everything is going to work smoother.
Yeah, I think the department heads bring some continuity to the organization because, with mayors switching like they can and easily as they can every 2 years, that continuity is important for operations and staff. And so they're the kind of the backbone of the operation. And hopefully the mayor has that ability to change directions or point them in a different direction, but they really have the knowledge base.
Look at that. We said we had nothing to talk about this week. We just went 9 minutes on the transfer of power, and we didn't even.
Yeah,
And I didn't even ask if the next, if the mayor candidate you're endorsing is a hunter. So,
I don't think he is.
oh, well,
No, no.
we'll find something else to talk about, no matter who
Oh
it is
yeah,
going to take over.
yes,
One
definitely.
thing regarding one of the fun things that you wanted to kind of bring up here before we let you go again. a river otter exhibit being considered in Wisconsin Rapids. Tell us about this because this seems fun.
So we were a benefactor of in a will of can't remember what the total amount was. Must have been a $500,000 or something for the zoo, it's been it's earmarked. A part of that money was to create new exhibits, and so uh, we did a kangaroo exhibit here a couple years ago, and so this year Park and Rec or the team at the Park and Rec department has brought forth a river otter display, and so had our last Park and Rec meeting, they kind of brought kind of an example of designs, and they have to build kind of a pool and so yeah, so we're looking at bringing in a couple of river otters, hopefully that we can get this put together, and it would definitely be an exciting display, and it would be a year-round display too because river otters don't hibernate, and so you keep the water open, and they will be out there year round, and it could make for an interesting trip to the zoo.
So, what is the I guess what's the benefit of something like this for the community? Obviously, the Wisconsin Rapids Municipal Zoo is considered a community asset, but why river otters? Why now?
Um, well, we did the prairie dogs. Well, actually, yeah, last year's project was prairie dogs, and so in the spring they'll be we'll be purchasing prairie dogs, and so they will take home in our new area that we built for them and burrow their tunnels, um, and then this year. So it's really about a trying to expand the zoo, and b the more displays you have and the more interesting type like river otters that are active and playful brings in people wanting to come see them, especially kids and families. And
Mhm.
our little zoo is pretty popular, and it's just another great exhibit for people to come and enjoy at our zoo.
Absolutely. And I think another thing is, being a city on a river like Wisconsin Rapids is, it would make sense that you would have as many of those animals as possible that would be, in this area or enjoy being near water for a natural habitat, just for those educational opportunities as well.
Yeah, I agree. And maybe next mayor will bring you down and you can do the show by the river otters.
Absolutely. I'm all for that. We're gonna
Mhm.
we can schedule that right now, almost, I would say.
Uh, I'll commit them to it.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, before we let you go, again, it is snow removal season. Obviously, crews were
Mhm.
busy last weekend. In fact, you may have heard the EAS receiver go off in the background there while my mic was on. We last week we were in for it. How is the budget looking as far as snow removal goes, and how is the crew holding up?
So this time of the year, it's nice when we have snow because otherwise the crews get a little bored. The problem with our snow removal budget, it's a lot of labor, and so that labor, if they're not removing snow, they're doing some other thing that we found for them to do until we get snow. So a lot of times that money ends up getting transferred around to different accounts to pay for their labor time. And so yeah, otherwise it looks good, but this time of the year they do a lot of brush cutting and tree trimming and those kind of projects. And but I think when we get snow, they're happy to go out in their big toys and remove snow and do their thing, which they get pretty good at.
Yeah, indeed. And yeah, I'm sure they'll get pretty good at it, finalizing, getting the fine tuning and a widening of the streets done here later this week because they were certainly busy over the weekend.
Definitely.
Mayor Shane, we always appreciate the time. Look forward to chatting again next month and seeing what we can come up with.
Sounds great. Thanks, Mike.